Today is the last day of 2021. It was a bit of a roller coaster. It really was. I want to talk about the ups, the downs, everything in between, some of the big wins, some of the big losses, how my goals went, all of that in the realms of health, hide hustles, side hustles, and school. And it's going to be good. It's going to be good. So we're going to be doing that. And if you are interested, definitely stick around. And I hope that your 2021 was pretty good. Looking forward to a very bright and happy 2022 and moving forward and learning from all the mistakes of 2021 and years prior. So, as always, the podcast is helpful for you and is helping you build your side hustle, your school, performance, your care for yourself. Then definitely hit the follow button. I really do appreciate that. And we're just going to jump right in now. Whoosh. All right, so today in the realm of health, it's interesting because I had a goal of running every single day of 2021. And I did that up to about maybe February or so. And then I had a couple days where I missed it because I was in pain or because of other reasons. And it kind of spiraled down from there. I think it was in the middle of May when I tweaked my ankle, and that was kind of the beginning of the more depressive parts because I wasn't able to run. And when I was working at Pizza Hut, which was one of the biggest ones from the year for sure, I wasn't able to work as much. And so all of a sudden I went from feeling very useful to feeling pretty much worthless and useless. And that unfortunately is a mentality I carried through a lot of the year. And a lot of people wouldn't be able to believe or guess that. And I think I was able to fight it for the most part. But then there was other pivotal moments where I chose to sit on the bench of life and not get in the game. That's not what Dallin Canlin does. He doesn't do that. There's been so many times where it is so hard to get in the game, and I just did it and I just went for it. And this year, there were some pivotal times where I could have gone in the game, and I was like, you know what? It's not worth it. I'm not going to make any shots. I'm not going to get any passes. I'm going to lose the game for the team. When all the coach wanted me to do is get in the game, and I said, you know what? I'm just going to sit on the bench. And I think a lot of it was not taking the 1% wins because I wanted 5% wins. I wanted 10% wins. I wanted to move 10% ahead of my life in one day. And I think there's some days when you can move like 2%, maybe even 3%. But, you know, 5-10%, that's a little ludicrous. It's a little bit crazy. But that was kind of what I did. Was once I kind of fell off the normal boat, I wanted so badly to catch up that I was pushing myself like crazy. And this is where the PPC balance comes in. This is a concept talked about in 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And the P is basically your production. How much are you putting out? For me, I put out over 100 episodes of this podcast this year, and that was probably one of my main accomplishments creation wise, besides all the writing and poetry I did. But then there's the production capability. The truth is, there was a lot more I was capable of doing, but I wasn't taking care of myself enough. I was focusing so much on just getting an episode out, and I am truthfully pretty proud of most of the content I came out with this year, but a lot of it feels like I was just trying to like push my brain to come up with something and just kind of just really not taking care of myself, not helping myself out, and not looking at these bigger picture goals. Now the goal is surviving. Now the goal is just like, let's just get an episode out. There really wasn't much big picture thinking. Okay, what am I going to do this month so that we hit 20,000 views of or downloads of the podcast? I didn't really do that. I kind of lost sight of that. And I think there was times where I was like, okay, there's 6 months left. How can I do it? But there just wasn't enough commitment and focus. There were things that came up that I let to divert me. One of those was TikTok. When TikTok came out, I thought it was pretty interesting, but I didn't do anything about it. And then, in the middle of summer, right when why do I sound like Scooby Doo? Right when my, internship with StuKen started up, I made a TikTok account, made some TikToks, was like, oh wow, this is really cool. Got a little sucked into it, and I let be more important than the podcast and other stuff, at least temporarily when I was using it. I would spend 5, 6 hours some days on it, and that was super unhealthy. This thing that had never given me any, really hadn't given me anything. And I was putting more time into that than like my scripture reading at the time, and it wasn't like that was like a thing I did every single day, but I took that as like, wow, I'm not able to focus. And I didn't really take the time to refocus, make a game plan, and I completely overlooked myself. I was like, yeah, I've succumbed, I've failed in that way. Watched all those videos about, it wasn't like bad videos, but just like really a waste of time. And some of them were not like that great, I'll be honest. Like, why am I watching this? Why is this here? It's just kind of weird or odd, but you know, but I just kind of cared a bit too much about falling behind. I was focused on catching up. And, as I kind of talked about in in the lessons for the year, if you try to catch up, you might just fall back behind. Sometimes you just have to, well, for that, it was all about my mentality. I was like, okay, I am a loser until I catch up to this point, and I made it harder and harder for myself. I mean, even when Clubhouse came out, and all of this like affected my health, my ability to produce content. And so this is kind of where this all comes back to. My mental health suffered a lot because I just didn't trust myself. I got to the point I didn't really trust myself. I wasn't really doing things that I enjoyed. When I didn't play any video games for a while, that was a real bummer in the, winter semester when I didn't play any video games at all. That was kind of rough. And then, the spring semester I played video games again. Spring semester was amazing. And then summer was really kind of where it all went downhill. I didn't have a very good plan of what I was going to do. I just assumed I would be productive. I had a list on my Google Calendar of things to do, but it really wasn't designed to help me. It was designed to keep me busy, designed to get a result. And you see this with businesses. They push the person just to get the result. Kind of going back to the PPC balance, they get the production what that they want, but there isn't much help given to the individual. And obviously this isn't the truth of everything. Like when I worked at Sukent, they worked so hard to help me. They had a cereal bar, weekly trainings, one-on-one trainings. It was amazing. It really did help me a lot with my overall production. However, with my overall life, I didn't give myself that same courtesy. I think there was days I did, 100%. But was it like a pattern that I followed? No. And I let myself think, man, this is not Dallin. Why is Dallin doing so bad? And I'd criticize myself. And I gave a lot of time and attention to thoughts that weren't really good. And I let myself be like, why did I have this thought? And then I would look back like, wow, I remember when I was getting into meditation. I remember when I was doing this and I had all these high goals. And like, I'm not making any progress. I'm running on this hamster wheel. Why does my life feel like a hamster wheel? Dude, it just went all over the place. I found out very clearly that I experience the world very often through my feelings and emotions and actions. And I have to be very careful of that because I can feel it's easy to feel something and let that lead to an experience. And I let that happen way too many times for the not so good. I'd be feeling really out of it, and then I just lay down and take a nap and lose a lot of momentum. I'm impressed with myself that I was able to keep going. I didn't really have a really good why, man. I realized how shallow my why truly is. I need to refocus it. I was trying to like catch up to this impossible standard and attract people that are so beyond me in their overall growth in different ways that it was not good. I mean, just like what Madison said in her episode that we did together, and that's gotten a lot of feedback and everything. I do appreciate that that interview I did with her, I uploaded it earlier this week, is that she focused too much on another person, what they thought, and that led her to neglect herself. And she said, you cannot neglect yourself. And that's exactly what I did. And then I let myself get on the train of like, let's beat myself up about this because why not? And this led to worry. This led to so many things. And it led me to thinking I wasn't making a difference in the world. And it wasn't good. So I mean, I think there was times where there's a lot of highs in 2021. I mean, Pizza Hut was great. Stu Kent was really good. I mean, there was a lot of really good things that happened in my life, but it was just a little bit of a struggle. And I had plans to eat better in 2021. I didn't do that. I think it probably got worse. I mean, okay, maybe it got a little bit better, but it was not that great and just was frustrating. I was comparing myself to other people. Like, look at this person who has so many years ahead of them and so much youth ahead of them, and look at me, who has wasted his time. Woe is me, woe is me. I haven't done this and that. And obviously, it wasn't good. It wasn't good. So, my health overall wasn't that great. I'm still in decent health, but my mental health has been kind of on the rocks a little bit. Definitely definitely in jeopardy, definitely not in a good place. I uh, it's just it hasn't been very good mental health wise, but I've had a lot of people to help me out and I'm thankful for that. But I just let so many things get in my head and you just can't let that happen. Like this person doesn't show for a podcast interview and I'd let that eat me up. I'd let that train wreck my entire day. That happened multiple times. People not showing up, I was pretty sure they'd show up, and I get treated like garbage because they don't show up. And I take that way too personally. And I'm like, okay, well, what am I supposed to do now? And it wasn't good. It wasn't good. So that's my health in a nutshell. We're going to talk about the next two topics a little bit quicker because I know your time is extremely valuable. Um, yeah, so that was health in a nutshell. Overall, did not respect the PPC balance, and I I let myself I chose to care much more about what others were thinking of me than what myself was thinking of me. I chose to basically invalidate my opinion of myself and to at the same time care too much about my opinion of myself. It was very tiring, very stressful, very rough. But yeah. As far as side hustles go, I mean, I did the podcast, put out a bunch of episodes, did a lot of writing, but I kind of let so many things again just not I just didn't let things matter to me. I talked about like the need to focus. I just recently listened to the annual review for 2020. I was like I learned the need to like focus super hard on things and to, get in the flow state and all that stuff. And I did that to a certain degree, but a lot of it was I changed my mindset and I was like I just need to catch up. I just need to get these things done. And it was uninspiring to say the least. I tried getting into streaming again, which was really, really foolish. Kind of it was a little bit of a rebellious thing. Honestly, I knew it was not going to be useful, but I was like so sold on I'm just going to hit affiliate and then I'll make like 2 cents in passive income. It's like the stupidest thing ever, but I just struggled so much of letting go of past failures and just I had those in my rocks, my bag of life, and just let them weigh me down. And so, like with side hustles and stuff, I really struggle with pivoting. I mean, every single episode, I mean, I made ones about pivoting, made ones about all these different things. Those were things that I was struggling with, things that were pertinent to me that I was hoping somebody else would resonate with. And a lot of it, I don't really know if people resonate with it because I didn't really get a lot of feedback, which is fine, of course. But, those are things that I was struggling with, and I didn't really take the time to care because there were so many other things on my plate. I just was like going so quickly, didn't really take a lot of time to take a step back, and just felt like I need to make the perfect day, need to have perfect all this other stuff. And, I was like, if I don't have this set up, then I won't make it. I won't feel better. And I just overlooked how powerful just making like, a tiny little improvement would do. What I basically did was instead of like putting in an hour every day or 30 minutes every day, I would just kind of stress, here comes the deadline, and I just put something out. And I mean, there's days I plan more ahead and interviews I prepare for, but just really let those thoughts have way too much dominion over me. Like, this is not something that Dallin would do. Dallin goes really deep on these things, and a lot of that is just other things, trying to let go of those, like my old YouTube channel, other things like that, just feeling like it would never ever end and that it would never ever get better, and I had no way to control that. Another thing was just, struggles with just just feeling like I was just so far behind, and it was so hard to let myself feel otherwise. I think coming off of Pizza Hut, I was feeling pretty good, but then that summer, I really didn't get as much done as I could have, and I just wasn't happy with myself. I think I was happy with myself in the moment until I realized like how much time was going away that I wasn't using, and it made this past semester way way harder than it needed to be, and I still did really well. So, that's basically how side hustles went. Made $0 and 0 cents. You know, didn't really stay super focused on things. Never was able to get outside of the whole let's think outside the box with this. Let's kind of push our vision. I just kind of let myself be held down by the past, and I think I spent a lot more time in the past. And yeah, just didn't really let myself have hope and peace with a lot of things, and it was just not good. It was just not good. So, you know, I'm really planning just to make some slow and simple progress in 2022. Same thing with health. Just gonna take a mental health month on in January, and hopefully get into some better running and stuff after I've really taken care of my ankle and stuff. But just just there's just a lot of struggling, and you can tell by how all over the place this episode is. It's really hard for me to do this because 2021 was so crazy. It was all over the place for me. I had everything figured out, then I had nothing figured out, or how I felt. I slept in on this day. I took a nap when I didn't want to. I felt like I lost control of different things. you know, just it was hard, but I learned a lot from it, and I took notes, and I took journal, and I did all that like nearly every single day. So it's all about applying that and learning from that. All of that homework and all of that studying I did from the game of life, from the tests of life. I have that for the upcoming tests ahead, which is a real blessing. But I think that's enough about side hustles. So the last thing we'll talk about really briefly is So the last thing I'll talk about briefly is school. School I did really well with. I was like, okay, how can I graduate quicker? All right, this is how I do it. And I've been going to school this whole time, and it's gone really well. In the spring I took way more classes than I have in a bit. Did really well, and I was working at Pizza Hut, and I was doing the podcast, so that was awesome. And then I just was like, I'm gonna put a lot of work into my podcast and stuff during the fall semester, and I didn't really do that. Just let myself settle for the bare minimum, and it was sad. It was sad for Dallin. Why? Why would we do